Hi guys. I'll go ahead and warn you right up front. Today's video is going to be a little bit gruesome. So if you're a little bit squeamish, you might want to not watch it. All right. That said, today we're going to be talking about bullet wounds. All right. How to make them, how to prevent them, and in a future video, I'm going to talk about dealing with them after the fact. Actually, I'm going to try to have a friend of mine who's much more knowledgeable about that than me, but if not, I'll do it myself. You remember in the use of deadly force lesson, we talked about shooting to stop the threat. That is your goal, shoot to stop the threat. What does that mean and how does that work? How do we stop a threat? Where do we shoot? Typically, in a self-defense encounter, you should shoot, you'll hear the term shoot center mass, center of mass, center mass. What does center mass mean? That's our trunk, okay? That is what we aim for. Why do we do that? Couple of reasons. One, it's the biggest thing we can see, all right? And our accuracy is going to diminish when we're under stress. We talked about that in the reactions to adrenaline and stressful environments. So to give us a better chance of hitting something, we need to have a bigger target. And this is the biggest target we're going to get on somebody. So you want to shoot at the biggest part of them that you can see. Depending upon the situation, you may not have a presentation of a target that's this big. You may just see a guy's shoulder. You may only be able to see his feet underneath a car. But if you can make the determination that he needs to be shot, that's what you shoot at, okay? If you have to lay underneath a car and shoot him in the ankles till he falls down and then shoot him somewhere else, then that's what you do. But you shoot at the biggest part of him that you can see. And like I said, for most of us, that is in the trunk area. So, stopping the threat, how do we do that? All right. There are three methods of getting us to stop, all right, doing something. There's only one off switch on us, all right, and that's the brain stem, all right? So you have to take that out, and that is the only off switch. So, a bullet, basically right through the mouth, through the back of the head, cutting the brain stem will instantly stop somebody. All right, and that allows for no reflex or nothing. That's why, you'll see in the snipers, that's what they're doing, is they're trying to hit the brain stem. Not even the brain itself, but the brain stem, because if you only hit the brain, that still allows for a reflex. So if you have somebody in a hostage type situation who's got his finger on the trigger, if you don't hit the brain stem, he could still reflexively pull the trigger and kill the hostage. So if you're the only off switch is the brain stem. We don't typically make shots for that. All right. Why don't we do that? One, head is smaller. And the head moves around a whole lot more. It's a harder target to hit. And our goal is to stop the threat, not necessarily kill the person. That one, definitely dead. All right. You take out the brain stem, dude's dead. Now, if we're using deadly force, then obviously we're justified in making that person dead. But if we can not do that, then that's also not a bad thing, right? So center mass, the other two methods of stopping somebody is either loss of blood, loss of oxygen. All right, so you need the electrical system, you got a blood circulating system, and you got an oxygen delivery system. Those can be interrupted. If we put bullets into somebody, center mass, we are going to interrupt those. All right, so you have obviously your heart, your lungs, and you've got a spinal column that's in the center of your body. Those are all right in here. All right, so if we can put a bullet somewhere in that 8-inch circle right in the middle of somebody's chest, we've got a pretty good chance of hitting something in there that's going to make him stop doing whatever it was that made you start shooting him in the first place. And with handgun bullets, there's a high likelihood, especially if he gets medical attention pretty quick, that he'll make it. All right. Also for yourself, if you catch bullets, if you get medical attention fairly quick, there's a good chance that you'll make it. The bullets themselves, they do some interesting things. You'll see some of the ballistics test where they shoot them into gel and stuff. And you'll see a couple of different things. You'll have what's called a temporary cavity and a permanent cavity. And so when the bullet hits this gel, it makes this big balloon of air inside the gel, which collapses back down, and then the bullet continues either all the way through the block or it stops somewhere in that block of gelatin. And that gelatin is a tissue simulant. Okay, it's designed to simulate muscle, basically. The permanent cavity is really the one that matters the most. Temporary cavitation can have some effects on stopping people, but it's called a temporary cavity for a reason. Okay, what it does is when the bullet hits, it moves all that stuff in you out of the way, and it comes back. Most of our organs are kind of fluidy. All right, there's only a couple of our organs that don't do the fluid thing very well. The liver and the lungs don't do the fluid thing pretty well. They tear and break and stuff instead of moving out of the way. All right, but the permanent cavitation is the issue. All right, how big a permanent cavity are we putting in there? Now, for self-defense purposes and out on the street, we have to worry about over penetration and the bullet going on through the bad guy and becoming an issue for us, a liability issue on the other side of the bad guy. In some situations, military situations, that's not quite as concerning for us. But so we want a permanent cavity to disrupt something inside them sufficiently that it's going to stop them from continuing their attack on us. So obviously you hit the heart, no more blood pumping. You hit the lungs, disrupts your airflow, your oxygen level. Notice those things are not instantaneous incapacitations. Okay, you can be shot directly in the heart, and if you're either drugged properly or motivated properly, you've still got some fight left in you. All right, this is in both directions. You can put a dead center bullet shot in a bad guy in his heart, and he can still fight you for 2 minutes. All right, you can do the same thing. Yeah, you get shot in the heart, you're done. All right, but you still got 2 minutes of fight left in you if you got the motivation to carry on the fight. All right, bullet wounds are kind of magic in a way. All right, a whole lot of people get shot pretty frequently, don't even know they've been shot. If somebody falls down from being shot, particularly with a handgun round, they fall down because they think that's what they're supposed to do. They've seen it in enough movies that if you get shot, you fall down. It doesn't work that way. All right, there's physics involved here. If there was enough energy on that bullet on the catching end to knock him down, there would be that much energy on the throwing end to knock you down. Do you see what I'm saying? All right, the whole physics of that thing. Shooting a .308 rifle has a significant kick, but it's not enough kick to knock me down. The bullet on the other end is not going to knock you down either, especially something like a .308. If it goes all the way through you, you're not even catching all the energy. The bullet's going right all the way through you. It's not going to knock you down. If you fall down, it's because it could be because you something was hitting you that disabled you. Like if you get hit in the hip, or shatter a bone in your leg, obviously you're going to fall down. But if you get hit in the torso, it's not going to knock you down. If you fall down, it's because you think you're supposed to fall down. I've read all kinds of accounts of crazy things happening with bullets. The craziest one is a doctor's account from back in the cowboy days, where he was dealing with a patient who was shot in the leg, and not in a way that should have been fatal, but the guy died. It basically scared him to death. He thought, well, I get shot, you die. And he died because he thought he was supposed to die. Your brain is pretty powerful in that respect. You can take a lot of damage and continue a fight. Your opponent can take a lot of damage and continue the fight. Like I said, particularly if you're hyped up on drugs, hyped up on adrenaline, or just properly trained. There's a video you can watch. It's kind of infamous now. It's a DEA agent in like a 5th grade schoolroom, and he's teaching gun safety. He has a Glock pistol, and eventually he tries to use an AR-15, but he's trying to teach this class gun safety. And during the class and during one of his demonstrations, after he cleared his pistol and he also showed his pistol to a partner who also verified that it was clear, he let the slide go and then shot himself in the leg. So 2 people didn't do their job there, right? Plus, he was pointing the muzzle at himself and he pulled the trigger. Whole bunch of wrong there in front of a class of school kids on video. Then the guy tries to continue teaching the class. Okay, so he shot himself in the leg with a .40 caliber Glock pistol. We can assume it was hollow points because it was probably his duty ammunition. So he probably took a significant wound to the leg, and he sets the gun down, and then he's limping now, but he tries to continue teaching the class. Didn't appear to be on drugs. Didn't appear to really be hyped up on adrenaline. You know, you'd be a little hyped up because you just got shot. But the man had been trained well enough that he just continued on. Now, you know, of course, the class pretty much went chaotic at that point, and he, you know, didn't really get any more training value out of that. But what I'm saying is a bullet is not a magic wand. It does not automatically make somebody stop a fight. It doesn't make you automatically stop a fight. You can take a lot of hits and keep fighting. You should. You know, you fight until you can't fight anymore, or until your threat can't fight anymore. The primary target, like we talked about, was the torso. If for some reason that's not working, all right, if you put a whole bunch of bullets in somebody's torso and it's not doing you any good, possibility the dude's got body armor on. All right, if he has body armor on, then you're going to have to pick a secondary target. That's what they call a failure drill. Most of your responses are shooting a couple of rounds to the chest. If that doesn't do anything to the guy, you're going to have to pick another target. That failed, we need to do something else. So the headshot would be a typical response, but also the pelvis, what's called the pelvic girdle, is another secondary target. You know, so you're either going to aim higher or lower depending upon what's available to you. We've talked about what aiming at the brainstem or the brain itself can do for you. But if you shatter the pelvic girdle, the dude's not walking anywhere, all right? I don't really care how much drugs you're on. If there's no structural integrity in your pelvis anymore, you're not walking anywhere, okay? So is that going to take the fight all the way out of him? Who knows? Like I said, depending upon the person's level of motivation or drugs, it's hard to say. But you know the physics behind what you're trying to do, and you also know now some of the psychology and the physiology behind what you're trying to do. And all of that stuff works in both directions. It works on what you're sending out and what you're getting in. All right, most of you guys will be wearing body armor, so you got a whole lot of shield right there. You can have some level of confidence in that. But even if you take hits in other places, that doesn't put you out of the fight. You don't quit fighting until you're done. Now, in our bullet wound fixing thing, we may need to address ourselves pretty quickly. All right, we may need to get this fight over quick so that we can, you know, keep ourselves on the planet. But we may not be able to do it right now. And kind of in the vein when we were talking in the use of deadly force about the adrenaline and stuff, how you have to break your tunnel vision, it's not a bad idea in part of your breaking your tunnel vision to do a self-scan. As remember I said, it's not uncommon for people to be shot and not realize they've been shot because of the adrenaline. Adrenaline is a powerful painkiller. You could have been shot and just not realize it. So you need to do a self-assessment after a violent encounter like that. You need to do a full body scan, everything, make sure that you're not hit anywhere as soon as you can. All right, because you just may not even know. Very traumatic injuries like that, it's not uncommon for them just to be, you just don't realize that you've been hit. Okay, so do a self-check right then. Now, preventing them, body armor is one thing we can do to prevent bullet wounds on our side. But then the cover and concealment is also a big part of that. Cover is anything that stops bullets coming your way, something that is structurally significant enough that it will stop a bullet, at least temporarily. something like what I'm saying by that is something like a cinder block wall. Cinder block walls will stop bullets for a while, right? They won't stop bullets forever. You can eventually shoot through a cinder block wall. So, you can use it as cover for a while, but eventually it may cease to be cover if somebody knows where you're at and they keep putting bullets into that thing. Concealment is anything that hides you from somebody who's trying to shoot at you. And for most people's purposes, they're almost the same thing. For most people, if they can't see it, they won't shoot at it. But you can't rely on that. You can catch a stray round or an accidental shot just as well as you could a meant shot, all right, if an intentional shot. So you can shoot through sheetrock, you can shoot through residential doors, you can shoot through car doors. About the only thing on a car that is reasonable cover is the engine compartment. Okay, the motor engine block. The wheels on the car offer some level of protection, but most of the rest of the car, the body panels, don't do anything. Some law enforcement agencies, which I think is a good idea, will take their older vests. Your bulletproof vest has a life expectancy on it, and so instead of just chucking the old vests, what a lot of places will do is they'll put those old vests in the doors of their car. Good idea. All right. It may not be exactly the level of protection that it was when it was new, but it does still have some ballistic protection in it, and it's sure as heck going to be better than just a regular old car door. So, if your department doesn't do that, maybe suggest that. If there's room inside that door, having your maintenance people put your old vests inside the car doors. Also, not a bad idea to hang them on the seat of your car, okay? If you can. Put it on the your driver's seat, or behind the seat or something like that. That way, if you're driving the car, you've got another layer of protection in your seat. So there's different things you can do to, one, avoid being shot, and what you can do after you've been shot, and how to react to the wounds themselves. So hopefully this has been useful to you. I know it's kind of gruesome, but when we're looking at it in this vein, it does. I mean, there's some facts on the ground that aren't necessarily pretty, but you need to have an understanding of those so that you can better apply them on the given end or react to them on the taken end if it comes to that. Hope you guys are all staying safe out there. Send me any questions or recommendations you've got. Thanks.